Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Dirty Dozen Hockey League podcast with myself and the weekly recap analyst, Derek Tonin. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Carl? Long time no see.
Long time no see. I'm excited, especially since I got this last minute background. We look like somewhat professionals here.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we got to start this right, or it's all gonna go wrong. Well, it might anyway, but let's see.
So I think for a good first episode, we're just going to talk about how each of our teams are doing, or if we have regrets, or pat ourselves on the back for things we've done during the draft. So we know we've talked about like based on season stats, your team's kind of been unlucky. So and now it's in dead last. So want to know how exactly you feel.
Well, I think I did decently in the draft. I picked up some pieces that are gonna help me long term, but I mean, clearly it's not my year. Like, even though I'm looking right now, I see myself ninth in rotisserie. I'm dead last in all the goalie stats, so my team's not that interesting. What I really want to talk about is John's team. John's team is going to luck himself into his first championship. And let me tell you why, Carr.
Okay.
I'm looking right now. He's fourth in rotisserie, but he's undefeated in the season. Okay. He's first place in standings. Now, where is he going to pick up his wins? He's going to pick it up in stats like goals. He's 11th in goals. Now, I know Barry is first, but all it takes is 1 week, right? So where else is John going to win? John's 8th in assists. That's great. Okay. Now his plus minus is a stat that John says he doesn't care about, but he's middle of the pack. He's 6th. Okay. STP 11th. 11th, 11th top.
He's as in second, top, okay? As in second.
Second. That's right. Now, where does he need help and where can he get help from a guy like me? Truculence. Okay. Right now, he's right there at the bottom and I'm right there at the top. John, I got Panev available to trade for. Come on. I could help you out. Just make the offer. It doesn't have to be a first round pick. Maybe it's like a third, but we could do it. We could do it, John. You could win. Anyway, where else could he improve? His goaltending could be a little bit better. He's still top half of the league and, everybody else above him is better, but he's undefeated this year. He just beat Jake. His number one stat, luck. Okay. He is going to win this season with luck. You can count on it. Okay. Gabi last year, he made the finals purely on luck. Everyone else said that team was good, but he plowed through teams that were better than him. Okay. John's going to do it this year. Count on it.
I'm really checking my audio to make sure my giggles don't go through, man. That was too good. That's the prediction. I mean, I had an undefeated season, and though Barry's sort of like this week putting that to the test, it's not out of the question that John can copy my feat, but for a longer stretch of time since my feat was done during a shortened season. But besides, I think we've talked also that the top 3 teams, but Rock Stallion's in the top 4 teams, but he's more under the radar at the moment just because of how his actual results are. But the top 4 have definitely separated themselves, and I see basically on the topic of like predicting who's going to win. I think for now Jake's the biggest threat just because he is like the other 2 teams, but he has better goaltending than John, and he actually has truck. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. I know Barry is going to try to refuses. He's mentioned he refuses to concentrate on that, but sometimes like some teams should do that. Like if they're like last in plus minus anyways, focus on being the best in the other categories. And who's to say that's not going to work as the Chinks are number 1 in goals, number 1 in assists, number 1 plus minus, and number 1 STP. I did want to quickly talk about your team though. During the draft, and not just because we're on this call together, I felt like you were the one that made a lot of picks that I would have made myself. And especially targeting a lot of these multi-category category guys. You drafted Foligno in the fourth, and that's like obviously a guy I just traded for someone I really wanted because of his truck and other category combinations. I'm obviously very unlikely to keep him, but I think he's a very key piece in possibly helping me repeat. And so quickly on my team, how I feel pretty good. Um, Obviously, my goaltending is one of the worst, but it's early. It's early. It's not. I mean, I can see why you'd given up looking at your stats. You're actually last in wins, GAA, and adjusted saves. But for me, I have faith that's going to turn around, and my offense is just as good, if not even better than last year. I think what's changed is that some of these other teams got even better. Like Barry's team was this explosive last year, and I feel my team is just as explosive as it was last year. And it's deceptive. Like I think people thought, like even John asked me if I was selling. I think it's deceptive that I was in 11th because ultimately, when you look at my results, I won 5-4 or lost 4-5, and just had 1-2-8 lost to the Chinks. That made it look like I think maybe everyone else was like having 5-4, 4-5 results, because if I'm in 11th and I only have one big loss, it would only take me one big win to get back in the middle of the pack, and that's what happened. I beat Mike in like 6-1-3, got back in, and if I defeat the emojis, I'm going to be close to the top four. So we'll see. We will see, and
Yeah,
that's
I
just
agree with you. Like part of the reason I was down on your team early on was like, you struggled. You facing off against Dan, like, that's a week you should win very easily, and you kind of just skated by. But you're right. Like looking at the rotisserie standings right now, with the exception of Barry, you can give anybody a solid run for their money based on your offensive stats. And really, you just need to make sure that your goaltending is shored up and you're ready for another championship run. What you mentioned earlier about the Rock Stallions, I think the Rock Stallions could beat anybody with their goaltending, but the problem is that they're just not built right with the truck and plus minus. Going up against a team like yourself or Barry or John or Jake, he doesn't have the offense to do it. And then, you can't just win on goaltending alone, even though we're going to talk about, goaltending stats being a little over weighted right now. It's not enough categories to win a championship with. I really think this is a 3 or 4 horse race right now. And I think you're in there. But you can't beat luck. I mean, come on, John.
Speaking, let's get right into the big stats, or not, just like how we feel in general. Like you said, Rock Stallions and Andrew, Gobby's like he went to the finals last year on the back of Vasilevsky, and he's doing again on the back of Vasilevsky and Bob, while being last in goals, basically near last in plus minus, near last in STP, second to last in game winning goals. So, and can't help but feel like obviously it's a little too goalie centered. But I want to first ask, like, if your mind has changed a little when I think John was asking our opinion on if we had to rebuild with 10 categories, how will we do it? And I felt like it made you reconsider a little, but maybe now you're going back on that.
My problem with changing the statistics is really about balance more than it is about what stat is deserving versus what stat isn't. Like, and like when John came to everybody earlier this year and said, what is your ideal lineup of statistics, I didn't knock off, I think, any more than a single goalie category. And really, I told John my preference was to go with more categories to reduce the importance of goaltending rather than just cut goaltending categories. And let me explain why. So right now we have 4 goaltending categories really, which is wins, goals against average, assisted saves, and then shutouts plus hat tricks. Now, shutouts plus hat tricks, I've got problems with otherwise. And I think that's the one I recommended that we drop. But let's ignore that one right now. It's a lottery statistic. I mean, the scoring, I guess, we're getting a lot of hat tricks this year, so this category is showing up more. And then some goalies get shutouts, but wins is like one of those categories. Is like, how could you lose wins, right? You want to know if a goalie won or not. You don't. It's the same as having game-winning goals, right? It's the same as having goals. Really, it's a sacred stat as far as goaltending goes. Goals against average and assisted saves. I feel like if you're gonna lose one, it hurts goaltending as a picture. If you lose assisted saves, you're hurting the guy who actually worked hard enough to get 2 goalies that start often, because one guy, a backup goalie, could post a shutout, have that 0 in goals against average, and you don't have assisted saves to counterbalance that. If you go the other way and you say, okay, we're going to keep assisted saves, but we're going to lose goals against average, then in the current meta of the NHL, not everybody can get 2 starting goalies. Is it fair to the guy who did well enough to get like a 1A, 1B tandem that, maybe gets roughed up a little bit in the week, to go against a guy who had 1 backup who posted a shutout, and then you have like 2 goalies who posts a 20 assisted save against a guy who posted a 30 because he had 1 start? Does that make sense either? No. So I think you need both, and both gives you that full picture of what goaltending actually was for the week. What do you think?
For me, it's tough. I want to, like, when I suggested like a small change, like dropping shutouts and hat trick potentially as an idea. I think the counter, and I think it's pretty valid from John and from mainly John, but Barry said like also I think that the change was kind of insignificant. But I think from my part also, I want to be, I acknowledge that's a good argument. I just think that I'm trying to be really careful with something that is like, clearly some people have fun drafting goalies in our league, and I don't want to. I want to be really delicate. And like for the most part, we're all happy with the categories for the most part, and just be really delicate not to even swing things too much the other way. I still want goalies to feel important, and like John mentioned, like what if we matched up the categories with the amount of skaters we have versus the amount of goalies? I mean, that's going to make goalies basically insignificant if we were ever to do that. So um, that's why, while I acknowledge that point, I just think we still want goalies to be fun for those of us who enjoy owning goalies and drafting goalies in the first round. And again, we're playing, was it 12 plus 6, 18 skaters to 2 goalies. If we were going to do an actual exact ratio, I wouldn't even have to draft goalies to win. So but for your points, yeah, it's really tough to remove, and that's why I've offered to, like, maybe we increase shots, we add shots, or we add like anything, we add anything, not anything that is. I know shots had a pushback from you as well, like rich get richer type thing. So it's like, okay, just add anything,
Yeah.
and I'm good with that. And but one idea I didn't think of until I thought about like talking points on this call was like maybe we could actually mix in goals somehow with goalies, because we have the ability to do that in Fantrax. I don't know how viable and clean and how people enjoy it, but imagine like we remove one of the goalie categories or modify it, but every time your goalie lets in a goal, you lose a goal in the goal category or something like that. I haven't thought about like whether I'd love it or not, but at least would be. And then because would be interesting and a good argument for this, goals is the tiebreaker category. So now you have a tiebreaker category that sort of has both elements. That could be interesting. Maybe people like hearing this idea for the first time are like, whoa, maybe.
I think that's a radical idea, Car Young Tom. And I like radical ideas. I don't know if I like that radical idea, but I encourage the thought process behind it. What I'd say is going back to the the part about goalies being, two positions in a 20-man lineup. The reason we did a 20-man lineup at the beginning of this whole fantasy league was really to match like the size of an NHL roster, right?
Right.
And if you think about it, yeah, there's two goalies on a real NHL roster, but really there's one goalie on the ice for 60 minutes and nobody else is really doing that on the team. At best, you're looking at a defenseman that plays 30 minutes, but otherwise, the goalie really is doing a lot more than the average skater. And that's why goalies should matter more in the statistics. Now, what I would say about the balance of stats is my ideal picture of it. I like radical ideas, so I want to keep hearing those. But my idea is really we should have three tranches of categories where you have your offensive skater categories, your defensive skater categories, and your goalie categories. And then, you can't just focus on any one piece to win a championship. You really need at least two. And I think we have that to some degree right now, where a team like Dan could go goalies plus minus truck and win. Maybe that's a little unbalanced because that's kind of 6-4. But like you can't ignore one of those slices and win. So I think that works, and that works in our current system. Maybe we fine tune it. I don't think we do something radical like completely cut two goalie categories because 4 is too much. But my thought, like when I was asked the question, I agree with dropping shutouts and hat tricks because it's a goalie centric thing, but also because you're getting rewarded twice for goals that happen. And I think that's a little ridiculous. I think I would still maybe keep a lottery category like that to keep it fun. But for me, the idea that like this guy's already going to beat me in goals and now he's beating me in this category too. That's rewarding the rich. And I'm not a huge fan of that idea. But like I said, I would add categories rather than subtract. And that's the way I think that we should balance the league.
Yeah, I agree with that approach. Whether it be, I think John's pushed for something that I think has the most chance of being approved, which is like re-breaking up truck into different categories and go about it that way. I think because like one of the things that if we keep the same amount of goalie categories, the one thing that bugs me, and I mentioned it to you a lot, is the correlation of a good goalie start. Like you have a shutout, you're more than like you get a win, you get low GAA, you're probably going to get pretty good adjusted saves, and in weeks where a lot of us are now getting like just maybe four goalie starts per week, that one win, that one event helping you win four categories. And in some cases, it does feel that way where I'm against, I don't know who, I don't remember, but like I'm against someone, I'm like, okay, I have to win the other six categories this week. And I don't think it should feel that way. It's like too powerful just because not only are there four, but they're just very related to each other. Whereas like, at least truck is unrelated to goals, right? So like a lot of things are plus minus can be unrelated to some of these other stuff. Like they're sort of related because of even strength, whatever. But the correlation is not as high as shutouts, GAA, adjusted save, and wins. So that's my main issue with that.
I agree. And that's part of why I'd be fine with dropping shutouts. But again, I think that anything that rewards the rich in two categories for a single event, that's the silly part of the league. What we want to do is give people more options to find a way to win rather than reduce it. And like you said, I'm against adding shots because I think for a team that already has really great scorers, that's going to help them. Nobody's going to add a guy just because he takes a lot of shitty shots. Whereas when you're adding someone who's really great at truck, you might also be getting someone who's going to help you in plus minus, but for different reasons. Whereas, it's like, we're going to add shots. Way to go, Connor McDavid.
Right. I don't know. In our last discussion, there were any other categories we had debated on. That I'm not sure. I I was looking at DFS leagues, what they're doing now for inspiration, and DraftKings, what they well, this is a goalie thing that's for fun. And we're probably never going to add. Well, maybe we will, but one they give bonuses for them for players hitting a certain amount of stats. So for goalies, they give like an extra bonus if they have 35 plus saves for that game. So that's some added randomness or radical ideas unrelated to the problems we're trying to solve. But if people want to get creative watching this and thinking of like all these random fun categories, they might take some ideas from that.
I like it. Like my radical idea to help reduce the importance of goalies was, breaking up truck, obviously, because I think there's a lot of great statistics that go into truck that could help, expand the importance of defensemen. It could help expand the importance of defensive forwards. I proposed to John that we put face-off categories in. Right now, centers are important anyway, but if you had to maybe consider a borderline center over another borderline center, and one's going to help you in faceoffs, it adds to the decision making there, and it reduces the importance of goalies to some degree. So keep the radical ideas coming, and don't let the naysayers get you down.
Yeah, I think I would. I think if you were to do a proposal, I think I would vote for faceoffs. My only issue was like, oh man, would it make like wingers that have faceoff too broken? But not really. Like then you would just adjust as we would accordingly. Like if we have a lot of good faceoff guys, you would try to build your lead in that. And if you really suck, you might just give up on the category. If you're in the middle of the pack, you should work towards improving that. So
yeah.
Same reason why it's okay if Barry and John give up on truck. Like if you're first in every other category, like who's to say that's a bad strategy, right? So
yeah, exactly. And like honestly, I don't think it's going to change the forward dynamic that much. Like right now, almost every guy on my team can play two positions, like right wing, left wing, center, left wing, right wing, center. It's like I don't even care where I put them half the time, because it's just like just play. So it's like, if you're good enough to draft guys who can do a little bit of everything, you get rewarded for that.
Yeah. I think we'll end this. Any last words, just to keep it short and inspire some more conversation, hopefully in the group.
Well, what I'm looking forward to seeing is who's going to get active in the trade column, like you and I have this last week. Because I still feel like I robbed you to some degree. I feel like I got two guys now. If anyone wants to make me some offers, I got two guys off Carl Young this week who are going to be really good and could help you win. So let me know. But like, I feel like, seriously speaking, we're into that part of the season right now where we pretty much know who's going to contend. And it's who can pick up valuable pieces and make that part of their future, either by keeping them or by trading them to a contender for picks. And I'm excited to see what happens there. What about you, Carr?
Okay, you know what? I have an idea for your recap now. Now that you made me think about my twitching and grinding. So,
Yeah.
I think the issue is I think you have to shine light on people who aren't doing it enough, right? I think when you traded with me, maybe you didn't look into my team deeply enough before you traded with me. But there's a reason why like almost every of my players have 15 points or above, and some of these middle of the pack contending teams, right? It's like they have sub 10-point guys that clearly they should have been dropping a long time ago. So maybe a segment, just like Barry's, like, what the heck? Your segment would be like, why is this player still on your team section? I got you.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. What are you doing with this guy? He's got 5 points. Like, what's going on?
That's good. And I feel like I'm probably going to be in that category for a lot of weeks.
Okay, you don't have to do it for every team. Just do it for one team a week.
You traded me Barzal last year.
Yeah,
and what the fuck is he doing? Is it like he's got like what, 8 points this season?
The Islanders as a whole. Yeah, the Islanders as a whole are terrible this year for whatever reason. Just dropped off the face of the earth.
I'm not dropping Matthew Barzell.
Oh.
Okay, he's staying on my team, but I think it's a good idea. I think I'll consider it for Monday.
A lot of people have trash players. I guarantee it. I've looked at them. So with that, we'll see you all for next episode. Maybe we'll do this once a month so that we have good content. So sayonara.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.